So this talk's all about Jetbrains Rider, and it's basically an intro and a few tips and tricks along the way. So Jetbrains Rider is a cross-platform .NET IDE, and again, Matt mentioned in the intro, and we gave away a couple of licenses. I've been using it for a while now, and I hear a lot of interest in it, just curiosity. So I thought I'd do a quick intro talk to just go through it and talk about it. I want to start off by saying that Rider's not better than Visual Studio is not better than Rider. They're just different. So I'm not saying that everyone should just jump ship and move over to Rider. I'm just saying try them out, see which you prefer. This applies to everything, programming language, technologies. Just try out the different options and see which you personally prefer. Rider's not free unless you've got the free license in the prize draw. So there's a Visual Studio Community Edition is free. So there's a benefit to staying with Visual Studio anyway. One advantage to Rider, though, is that if you use ReSharper, then you may notice that it slows down Visual Studio quite a lot. And that's because all extensions in Visual Studio run within the same process. Now, Visual Studio does a lot, ReSharper does a lot. So they're both like fighting for resources within the same process. And with Rider, and we actually had Matt Ellis from Jetbrains doing a talk, when was it, August 2017, basically explaining how they took the ReSharper engine into a separate process so that it wouldn't slow down the IDE. So you've got the Rider IDE and you've got ReSharper engine communicating via sockets, but they're in different processes. So this gets around the performance issues you see in Visual Studio when using ReSharper. Now, they've got this on the roadmap to do for the ReSharper extension, but there's no ETA yet. So hopefully at some point in the future, ReSharper will speed up. But at the moment, it's yes, they've still got the issue. So if you are used to using ReSharper, though, you will feel right at home in Rider. So I'm just going to jump straight over to Rider now. Before I start, though, I just want to, I'll be using a tool called Zoom It to like draw and annotate on the screen. I just wanted to get this out of the way just because I didn't want this to distract from the talk itself. So this is just part of the system internal suite. It's called Zoom It, so it's zoomit.exe. It's free, you can download it, but it's really useful. So I just wanted to explain what that was before I started. So Rider is built on top of the IntelliJ platform, and a lot of the Jetbrains IDEs are also built on top of the same core. So this means that even though Rider is relatively new, and I say relatively new, it's like a few years old now, but newish, it's not been built from scratch. It's been built on top of years and years worth of experience developing IDEs. And a lot of the plugins are shared between all the different IDEs anyway. And even though Rider is a .NET IDE, it's not just for .NET. So I do full stack development, so I'm doing Angular and React. And .NET, obviously. I do all this in Rider. Because it's built on top of a shared code base, then, for example, WebStorm is one of their IDEs. In Rider's got all that WebStorm functionality, so I get all the refactoring you get in .NET, in ReSharper. So you've got similar kind of refactoring and just error checking and code improvements in JavaScript or TypeScript as well. Also Terraform, there's a Terraform plugin for this, which is amazing. It just allows you to, it's like really good IntelliSense, F12 to navigate through all the different bits of it. So that's really powerful. So Rider's pretty much my home for everything, no matter what I'm developing. So I'm not going to go through everything about an IDE because I assume everyone knows what an IDE is. So like this is the Solution Explorer. So it looks the same as Visual Studio. It pretty much does the same thing. I've loaded up a .NET project called TryConvert. So this is one of the, it's on the .NET GitHub organization. Ignore what the project is. I just wanted a project that I could load up for this demo with some tests in it as well. So don't worry about what the project is. It's just a project that's on GitHub. So a lot of it's going to be quite familiar. So you've got your Solution Explorer. You've got along here, this is pretty, you'd be used to seeing this kind of thing. That's the configuration drop downs, play, debug, all this kind of thing. We've also got like down the side a bunch of, oops, not that one, a bunch of panes along each side and along the bottom as well, which we'll come to in a sec. So a lot of it should feel quite familiar. Well, and then we've got things like NuGet, unit tests, Git, and various things. So again, we'll come back to this in a sec. One nice thing that I just want to, obviously Visual Studio's got it as well, but I find this really useful, like the whole concept of breadcrumbs. You've got one up here and one down here as well. Now I find these really useful for just seeing where you are. So you've got like the current file here, the namespace here, the project you're in here. And then down here, this is a bit more, this bottom one's a bit more granular. So for example, you can see my cursor here is within a lambda, and you see it's lambda expression. And then, but the nice thing about these things are that you can click on them. So you can drill at any point in the breadcrumb, you can drill down on different bits, and then you can click along here as well. So that's quite nice. If you used to resharper, then you used to Control T, or you can do Shift in Rider as well. So this takes you to anything. Basically, you can navigate your code base, you can search all commands, you can search all settings. So for example, if I was somewhere else and I wanted to find, I don't know, mock property, I could do Shift mock property. You could quite quickly find that and go to that definition across the entire project. So this is classes, files, symbols. You've got, if I type commit, for example, you can see we've got some actions here, as well as searching your code base. You've also got inline properties, settings that you can change inline as well. So this is probably going to be your most used shortcut. So just tap Shift and then search for what you want to change. Obviously, you've still got the typical resharper Alt Enter, because all the resharper stuff is in this. So like if you're doing quick refactoring, Alt Enter is going to be your probably second used favorite shortcut. One thing I really like about Rider is it's really designed for developers that love the keyboard shortcuts and not reaching for the mouse all the time. You probably noticed with the panels like NuGet and stuff, we've got 7 there, 8 there, 9 there. Explorer's got a 1 next to it. So all of those numbers refer to holding down the Alt key, and you can press that number. So if I do Alt 1, for example, that's going to toggle the Solution Explorer. Alt 8, that's going to toggle the unit tests. But it's really, really quick. And it's a toggle as well. One thing that I don't like about Visual Studio is the shortcut for showing the Solution Explorer is Control-Alt-L. And you can press it, that focuses the Solution Explorer. If you press it again, then it's not a toggle, it doesn't go away. It just, to get rid of it, you've either got to reach for the mouse, press the X to get rid of it, or you can do, if it's got focus, you can do Shift and Escape to get rid of it, but then that's a different shortcut. And then if it's not got focus, like in Rider, if you do Shift and Escape, it collapses the last panel that you had focused. So if you're back in code again and press Shift and Escape, it'll get rid of that. Where in Visual Studio, it's got to be focused. But it's just really fast, where you can just quickly toggle all these things. You can do Control Shift and F12 to toggle the whole thing, so you can quickly view them all. But it takes it a bit further than this, because if you say I've got focus on the Solution Explorer or any of the panels, I can do Control Shift and the arrow keys as well. So I can start resizing all these from the keyboard. If I get the unit tests up, I can start resizing them. So you've got like a lot of control without having to reach for the mouse, find the point when you can drag it up and down just by reaching the keyboard. It's really, really designed for keyboard shortcuts. So that's really nice. A quick side note, actually, this whole resizing thing with a shortcut, Windows Terminal, you've got the same concept, so you can do that with Windows Terminal as well, which is quite nice. So I thought I'd mention that. Unit tests. So I just wanted to show this as well whilst I'm here. So this probably looks familiar for people who use ReSharper. So this is the same pane. And I'm sure a lot of you already know the difference between running tests and covering tests. But so if we just cover the tests here, what this does is, in a second, it will pop up a pane along the side saying your code coverage. In a sec. But either way, once that's done, you also get something else along the gutters along here, which you can see how it's green here. So that's showing that the coverage, this code, and you get these gutter items in the code and in the tests. It's showing that they're all passing. And if we find something that's not got any tests against it, you can see that here it's grey. So you can see, you get that immediate feedback that there's no tests running against it. And we can even, if we just find something, we can change, I think, in here. So you can see this has got tests against it and it's green. If we, like here, we've got like a knot. So say I'm coding away, I accidentally get rid of that and make a mistake. Well, imagine this panel's hidden and I'm coding away. Then I very quickly, or maybe not so quickly, demo gods. There we go. I relatively quickly get some feedback, and you can see in the gutter, you can click on it and find out what tests had failed. You can then, so you get that much faster feedback if you've broken something without realizing it. One other thing I wanted to point out, and down here, this button here, you can change the different modes. So by default, it's off. You can turn on cover new and outdated tests, which is what I did then. And you saw that as soon as I made the change and saved the file, it started running any tests that had been affected by that change. So that's really nice. It gives you really fast feedback, and you can almost forget about your tests. So if you're doing TDD, that's really nice. Git, I've not got a huge amount of time left, but if I just quickly show you the Git panel, I can use the shortcut while I'll mention that. So we've got like integrated Git. So obviously your graph, all your branches. There's also your pending changes and your commit message. So standard stuff you would see in Git. It's got a concept of, like here you can see change sets. So that's not a Git thing, I think, because these IDEs are designed to work with multiple different source control systems. If you've used Perforce, the concept of change sets is probably quite familiar. So you can move pending changes into different change sets, which is quite nice. Another nice thing is you've got this to-do explorer down here, so you can find all to-dos in your project and you can customize it. In your Git settings here, before you can set it up so before you commit, it checks your to-dos. So you've made a temporary change, you've added a to-do, and you go to commit it, it will pop up and tell you, do you want to review these first? So that's quite nice too. One other thing that's quite useful is if you've got say a directory, for example, it's got a bunch of scripts in there, or maybe some deployment files that's not part of your solution. Maybe it's in a different file somewhere else. You can do something called attach folders. So you can attach existing folder. And then you can choose, so maybe this might be, let's just pick some random one. Obviously, you probably wouldn't do this to an actual full project like reactive, but if you've got a scripts folder, you can have this in line as well, which is quite nice. So before I wrap up, just a few confusions that I quite often see people get when they're used to Visual Studio and they're trying out Rider. One of them is if I just F12 and F5 and run this, I think I should still have a breakpoint in here somewhere. Yeah, so this is just on project start. So I'm now in the debugger. You're used to in Visual Studio seeing these up here. So you've got your play, debug, stop. You've also got these down here as well. And if you're in a debugging session and you want to continue, You can press F5, that will still work. But if you're someone that uses the mouse, don't press that one. Use these ones. Use that one to continue. When you're in the debugging session, use these ones, not these ones. And lots of people who are used to Visual Studio would automatically go up here. And then it just restarts the entire session, which is a bit confusing. Another little one that's I find a bit weird, and I miss this, to be honest. There's file, new solution, but there's no file, new file. So you can't do, where in VS Code or Visual Studio, you can do Control N, have a new file, and it doesn't have to be named or anything. In Rider, you've got this concept of scratches. And if you right click and you say add, and there's a shortcut here as well, Control Shift Alt and Insert, you can then choose what file types. If we did plain text, for example, you then got it in the Scratch here, which is, it's a kind of different workflow. And these Scratch files are shared across all your projects. So if I open up a complete different project, these will still be here. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that's just how it's done in Rider. So I think I am probably about a minute over, but hopefully that was useful. I don't have time for questions, but I will be here in the virtual pub afterwards if anyone wants to ask me any questions.